Leaders from Britain, France, and Germany, and Italy and Finland are all set to meet with President Trump today, along with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. It comes just days after Trump's historic summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday, where they did discuss a peace deal in Ukraine, a meeting from which Zelensky was notably absent.
Those European leaders announcing that they would be attending the meeting alongside Zelensky in an apparent move to present a united front and to avoid another confrontation between Trump and Zelensky, like the now infamous February Oval Office encounter. The Associated Press, quoting the former head of France's military mission at the UN, saying, "The Europeans are very afraid of the Oval Office scene being repeated, and so they want to support Mr. Zelensky to the hilt. It's a power struggle and a position of strength that might work with Trump." But Secretary of State Marco Rubio pushed back hard on the idea that Zelensky needed backup to avoid being bullied by Trump. Let's take a listen.
There is concern from the Europeans that President Zelensky is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you
No, it isn't. That's not why they're coming
them?
as back. That's not true. This is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks on this stuff. They're coming here tomorrow because they chose to come here tomorrow. We invited them to come.
President Trump is already putting some pressure on Zelensky, making it clear the ball is in his court. He wrote in a post on True Social Sunday, President Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight. Remember how it started? No getting back Obama given Crimea 12 years ago without a shot being fired. No going into NATO by Ukraine. I don't know if it's putting bullying Zelensky to say he hopes he comes to an agreement. I don't know.
Perhaps not bullying, although Trump certainly holds, to use his preferred metaphor, a lot of cards here in the sense that Ukraine is obviously dependent on American aid continuing. Right. Yes, there's been some move to try to sort of funnel that through the European allies.
In the same way that I wouldn't have said that Trump was bullying Putin when he was frustrated with him and said he's got however many days or we're going to sanction. Like it's diplomacy. We're negotiating a complicated political situation. We're bringing European allies in for it. I think that's good. I don't have any. Some on the right hate Zelensky. I don't hate Zelensky at all. He's doing the best he can for his country. He's done a lot of things in the course of prosecuting this war that I disagree with in terms of the domestic politics of the country, suspension of rival political parties and independent media that I think is illiberal and bad. I think it was. I don't care that he doesn't wear a suit when he comes to the Oval Office.
Such a weird
and even their infamous Oval Office meltdown. I don't know. I kind of like seeing my leaders argue or debate in public rather than behind closed doors for a change. It's fine. It's all fine to me. And I hope it's coming toward peace.
So I think the not wearing a suit is fine. I have no objection to that. I had a much stronger reaction, it sounds like, to the February meeting than you did. Not because I dislike seeing people debate in public. I'm all in favour of that. I just felt that A, Zelensky was ambushed, in my view, particularly by J.D. Vance more so than Trump. And then second of all, I felt that the whole framing of the debate was just inaccurate and unfair. I mean, the framing of the debate was that somehow Zelensky was the one who was digging his heels in and frustrating a conclusion to a war that was begun by his country being invaded. Like, that's the fundamental reality. Yes, we can talk about NATO expansionism. We can talk about whether the US broke promises in the past. But the catalyst for the war is that Putin sent his army into Zelensky's country.
Of course. But my sense is that at that point, Zelensky's conviction that he can't agree to any territorial concessions was stronger then than it is now. Now I think he's in much more the realm of reality, and that's good. And I'm fine with them holding out. Again, if there's no security guarantee for Ukraine, what's the point of them making a deal? If that would clearly, to me, signal Russia just intends to go forward with the conquest. One way or the other, we're all being played. We should then just not engage at all. So the security agreement is very important if that's part of it. And then if it is, I think let's get this done so we can get Donald Trump his Nobel Peace Prize that he deserves.
Over my dead body, Robby. Donald Trump is going to get the
first
Nobel Peace Prize.
Azerbaijan and Armenia, now this. I joked about this with Lindsay. She just loved this. You'll love this just as much. We need to create a even bigger peace award to give to Donald Trump, because the Nobel Peace Prize is already sullied by Barack Obama having gotten it for doing nothing.
Lord.
So,
Giving the world hope of a new order.
my God. That was a participation trophy. They turned it into a participation trophy.
It was setting a new tone after all
Well,
the
even you
bitterness
must
of the
concede
Iraq
that
War.
was a little bit premature in terms of what Barack Obama actually accomplished.
I mean, I guess it. I mean, I guess it was, but I think that Trump is.
They got swept up in the hopium.
I enjoyed the hopium, and I thought it was much better than what Trump is doing. But the point here is that Trump just seemingly wants a deal, not exactly at any cost, but he seems to care more about the achievement of a deal than any principle that is at stake here. And I've said, and we said in the earlier
That's probably
segment,
characteristic of foreign policy.
But there's an important question at stake as to whether Putin is going to simply get away with invading a neighbor. And I'm less defeatist than you are about the overall situation, because you could, in fact, ramp up the economic cost on Russia. You could continue to aid Ukraine to the point where the attritional effect on Russia becomes greater, and therefore, up the motivation on Putin to make a deal. Putin has very little incentive to make a deal now because he's advancing on the battlefield, partly because the US has been dwindling away in terms of its level of backing for Ukraine.
I don't think they seem willing to stomach so many losses on the Russian side. Would increasing support to Ukrainian troops, if it's arms and aid, what more can they accomplish? At some point they're going to be. My understanding is their even ability to just use arms that are given to them is going downhill pretty rapidly because they're running through the military age population. Now, if you're saying, certainly if troops were committed by a European country or by the U.S., then yes, I agree, then that would change the calculation in the battle.
And nobody wants to do that.
But we are not willing to do that.
Right.
Is Europe willing to do that? I don't think they are either. Right. At which point, I'm not sure. Yes, we could adjust the dial and cause more destruction to Russia in a short term, maybe an intermediate term, but I don't. So then tons more Ukrainians die. And what's the end result?
Well, tons more Ukrainians die,
and
or alternatively, Putin eventually thinks, well, look, I need to actually sue for peace as well here because the mutual costs of this are too severe.
I just don't see any evidence that he thinks that way. I think he says, no, so be it. We'll lose another 500,000 Russians or whatever.
But one of the things that is insulating him from domestic pressure is the fact that the economic consequences have not been sufficiently dire as to actually create that pressure or intensify that pressure on him.
I've become so, every time I hear someone, even people I think are credible, say, oh yes, this is unpopular or for various reasons, the regime could be threatened, could be toppled from within, that just always ends up being pie in the sky fantasy.
Yeah, I'm not saying the regime would be toppled, but I'm saying that you could change the dynamics and the calculus for Putin beyond just saying, well, we're going to choke off aid to Ukraine anyway, and then expect Putin to do a deal when his troops are advancing. If his troops are advancing, what incentive does he have to do a deal? Former FBI Director James Comey makes a stunning admission. We'll tell you more next. We'll be right back after this.